Episode 6 of Rap Shit Season 2 begins with a small clip of podcasters discussing AK's self-immolation. The internet has nowadays become a vessel for incessant social commentary about everything. And most of the time, it is unnecessarily brutal and whimsical. We see exactly that as three guys talk about the incident in a very casual manner. Conspiracy theories and calls for AK to continue the tour dominate the discussions. Now that the tour is canceled, Mia and Shauna are back in Miami. They are both staying together since Shauna's room has been rented to someone else. Mia and Shauna have no idea what's coming next for them. Francois keeps on saying that he hasn't heard anything from Tunji, even though the meeting went so well. It gives us all the more reason to think that he was lying. When Alessia and Nelly show up at the house and start making fun of AK, Shauna decides to step out. She goes to Morris's house, which is unkempt and a mess. Shauna helps him clean up the place and Maurice agrees to let her stay the night. They lament the developments and how they drifted apart. Shauna knows nothing about his scheming and genuinely thanks him for looking out for her. Mia gets a cold shoulder from Lamont, who has started a relationship with a girl named Tiffany. He hasn't told Mia yet, but it is evident that he is only interested in keeping a relationship with Melissa, their daughter. Mia reluctantly goes out with her mother, Robin, for drinks where they talk about how women in their position must make the most of what they've got. Things go awry between Maurice and Shauna when Stanley shows up at the house. He can't believe he is entertaining her. Stanley is so upset that he threatens to stop protecting Maurice in the whole equation. Before leaving, he also tells Shauna that Maurice has been recording their conversations. Shauna leaves heartbroken and is consoled by Mia, who finds meaningful companionship in her. Chastity has gone back to her business to tend to affairs. However, she has come back home to unpleasant news. One of her girls was arrested at a hotel because the cops showed up and Deja forgot to pay off the hotel manager. The girls also point out that their spot on the Biscayne block has been taken over by bugs. Chastity promises to take care of the situation herself. Her idea of handling it is going into rooms wearing a mask and waving a gun around to force them out. This turns out to backfire on her later when Bugs and his thugs give her a brutal beating. Bugs counts her as lucky because she is left to live. Her uncle Calvin, though, has other ideas. Bugs clearly overstepped his bounds and Calvin wants to teach him a lesson by killing him. Chastity isn't comfortable with the idea, and as Calvin gets out of the car in Biscayne where he is meeting him, she once again asks him to avoid using his gun. At first, it only looks like Calvin will be beating him to demonstrate who's the boss. However, it all gets out of hand as we hear gunshots and Chastity hangs her head in disappointment. Calvin announces that Chastity has got her block back, but at a dear cost. The episode review. Episode 6 is notably shorter and quieter than the previous one. It needed to be to absorb the shocking immolation incident. Right off the bat, the episode started with a vile podcast discussion that says so much about the dark underbelly of the internet. Anonymous commentators on the internet who talk about issues they aren't remotely connected to are plenty in number. And it is even cringe to watch them do it with prejudiced pretense. Shauna's confrontation with the truth comes timely. She hasn't said anything culpable yet and might get away with it. However, seeing Mia's caring side for her and Melissa in a separate incident gives you a sense of what kind of person she is under all the flash. Hopefully, she is done being confused about whom to go after and just stick with one man. The highlight of episode 6 is Chastity's reaction to the reality of her life. We all have dark and ugly parts that we overlook or do not come up against in our daily lives. But when the moment comes, hanging our heads in heartbreak and moving on is the hardest to digest. I am extremely impressed with the serious approach to this part of Chastity's identity. Episode 6 is the most interesting episode so far in this aspect.